It's time for the BAQA. The BAQA. Okay, the BAQA. Hey, Brown Ambition, question and answer, where you have questions and we have answer-ish. We're just two smart brown girls who are just sharing our opinion, but we are not your attorney. We're not your certified financial planner. We're not your accountant. So certainly lean into them for the final say. But, we have a little say here too. Okay?
We know some stuff. We definitely know some stuff. All career and money questions, y'all continue to hit us up with those. Go to brandambitionpodcast.com, click Ask Us Anything, or you can just hit us up directly, send us a DM. We are at Brand Ambition Podcast on the gram. Also, brandambitionpodcast@gmail.com. We will be taking your questions. Give us a fun name, though. If you want to be anonymous, give us a little pen name.
Yeah.
The pseudonym you wished you had that you use for all your, your childhood fan fiction on the internet.
Like Sickening Sally, okay?
Yeah.
Or like Big Booty Judy, something.
Y'all will never know my fan fiction pen name. Never. Well, let's get into, we got some fun money questions today. You excited?
I am.
Let's start with listener TD. Of bank fame? I don't know. All right. TD says, hey, BA team. I love the show and love you two dope queens. I'm so glad Tiffany is backish. I've been praying for you and I've led 2 book clubs with Get Good with Money. Ooh, a stan. Yes. While I would like to remain anonymous, yes, TD is your pen name. I hope you will consider this question for the Friday Q&A. First, I'm not even going to look at my 401k or my Roths, which have totaled about $350,000 to $400,000 in the good old days, aka 2 weeks ago. I'm locked in for the ride until I'm 59 and a half, and time is on my side. This is so true. Second, my emergency fund is about $30,000, which is about 6 to 8 months of expenses. Right now in a high yield savings account. My house and cars are paid in full. Okay. I have about $60,000 in 3 mutual funds that are being hammered right now. I've had $15,000 in losses since Friday. I had a goal of having $100,000 in my emergency fund in the next 1 to 2 years. I'll be closer and feel a bit more secure if I can move $50,000 to my emergency fund. I'd also like to purchase $10,000 in ibonds. So here's my question. Would it be unwise to move the mutual funds to my high yield savings and replenish them later by continuing to invest in the downturn? Here's the caveat. I'm thinking of taking an adult gap year or global nomading in mid-2023, and I'd plan to liquidate my mutual funds for that life event next year. Any perspective you could offer would be great. Thanks in advance, TD. First and foremost, TD is impressive.
Girl. Okay, can we stand for this sister right here?
We can stand, yes. $400,000 in her 401k.
Yes.
Emergency fund, 6 to 8 months of expenses saved in that high yield savings. House and car paid in full.
Boom, boom.
Damn, she should have co-written Good with Money, not just led the book clubs. I feel like. But I get the sense she's basically, so she's talking about her investment account outside of her 401k. So she's got like a brokerage account and she's got $60,000 in there where she's being invested. She's been investing in mutual funds, which are being hammered right now. Aren't we all, right?
Yes.
And she wants to know if what would we think about her dipping into that brokerage account, selling those investments, and then selling $50,000 worth of those investments and putting them in her emergency fund, and then using the $10,000 of those funds or $10,000 of her investments that are in mutual funds right now, liquidating them and purchasing ibonds instead. Good question. Juicy.
I know. Well,
what you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking like, leave it alone, sis. But you do have a special case because sis got it going on. Her retirement account's looking cute and good. She doesn't have the major debt that everyone else has. I'm assuming you probably don't have credit card debt either because sis, house paid off, car paid off. You sound like a credit card debt free sis. Okay. And then the fact that you have your emergency fund funded 6 to 8 months. So normally I'd be like, no, leave it alone. But because I don't know what the market's going to do. You've already lost $10,000 to $15,000. And it might get worse, or I guess my concern is locking in the loss versus taking your money and run. Normally, if you weren't going to take this money so that way you could nomad in mid 2023, I'd be like, leave it. Don't lock in the loss by withdrawing your money. But because it's for something specific, I mean, if you want to do it, I'm not going to stand in your way, sis. But don't tell nobody I told you. Because like I said, normally I'd be like, don't do it. But because you're so strong everywhere else financially, because my concern is this recession is not looking like what the last mini recession looked like, which was like an instant bounce back. Like it went down, then back up again. It's looking like it's only going to get worse before it gets better, and we just don't know how much worse. So I ain't mad at you, sis. I ain't mad at you because you have the rest of your financial life together. So if you want to do it, I mean, you might see me right alongside with you. You see me now. I'll say, "Ooh, you can't tell me nothing now that I am recording in the upstate New York instead of my house." Because I'm like, "Oh, look at me traveling and doing the podcast." So
I know,
you
I
might
was
have me
hoping
right along with you.
I was excited for you to do the show on the back of a camel in Jordan, but that didn't happen. Maybe it's
the
not too
camel
late.
is not happening.
This is really interesting because it's so timely, right? So, and she's talking about, she was thinking she wants to basically take this money out of the market, so snatch it up while she still can before she loses even more.
Mm-hmm.
But what's important here, and the reason you're giving the advice you are, and I want to make it clear to our audience,
Yes.
It's different than what we usually would say. Her time horizon is so much shorter now. She's talking about she was wanting to use this money for mid 2023.
Mm-hmm.
That's only a year away. And she had planned to use this money to global nomad, which is incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's only a year away. And like what Tiffany is saying is with the way that trends are showing right now, things may get worse before they get better.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that if she were to leave it tied up in mutual funds in the market, let's just assume, I don't know what the mutual funds are holding, but let's assume they're all stock index fund or things like that, tracking the S&P. It's looking like things will get worse before they get better, so she could lose even more. Mm-hmm. She needs the money in the year. It'd be different if this was what the money that she was investing for her retirement. She's got that in a separate bucket. Mm-hmm. Retirement bucket is looking amazing, $400K in a 401k. So this is her, her wealth building fund on the side. Yes. So yeah, I can understand, Tiff, why you're saying what you're saying. It's scary to me still, but it's really scary to me still. I love that I like that she's doing the ibonds. Here's the thing, so let's talk about some ways to yield a higher return out of the stock market. So if she's going to take $60K out of this fund, then what could she do? I think $10K in ibonds is great. We talked about ibonds a few weeks ago. They're getting super sexy and exciting now because they guarantee, I think, a 9%, 9.62% at the time. I should double check that. They are meant to hedge against inflation. And with inflation being as high as it is, interest rate on ibonds was like over 9%. And that's guaranteed. You can contribute $10K per year in an ibond. So if you want, go back and listen to that episode. We talk all about it. That's smart. But an emergency savings fund, I did get an alert from my online only bank that the savings rate is going to be going up, I think to 0.9% or 1% now, which is woohoo exciting. But at least look into CDs, I would say. Like, I don't know what CD rates are right now, but, CDs can make sense if you are okay with tying up your money for a little bit of time. There's CDs as short as like 3 or 6 months sometimes, and as long as, 5, 7, 10 years. You're going to need your money in the next year. So see what 12-month CD rates kind of look like. You may not need, you're going to need some money at the beginning, some money next year when you start your travels. You may not need it all at once though. Yeah. So there's something called a CD ladder where you can choose CDs of different lengths so that they mature and you can withdraw the funds in a staggered pace. So you could do a 6-month CD, a 12-month CD, an 18-month CD, a 24-month CD to kind of like carry you through your travels. And then each time they mature, you can withdraw the funds and then, your money will have grown, probably not at an enormously amazing rate because rates are still pretty low, but better than what you may get from an emergency fund. And because they are CDs, they're held by FDIC insured institutions. So you have security there as well. Like, you're not going to lose your money, which is of course different to money you lose in the stock market because ain't nothing you can do about all that.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. I really like that because it's a good mix of our innate, girl, leave that money alone. But also, I get it because you've
Yeah.
done everything else really responsibly, and you deserve to nomad if you want to nomad, especially with what's happening in USA, the US of A. But to do so in a way, that where you get to make a little bit of money on your money. It's not just sitting, in your savings account. I think that's brilliant. Let us know where you plan on going, sis. I would love to hear, right? I'm like,
Can we be
I love me
friends?
a
I
good
kind of just want
travel.
to be your friend.
I know, right? I'm like, you sure you want to come on? Because you sound dope.
We need a third co-host. I don't know. That's incredible. Well, good luck. That's so exciting. And talk about setting goals and then going out and freaking reach them. Didn't even mention that she still has $30K in her emergency fund on the side too. So she's
Girl.
covering literally all her bases.
Yes.
Incredible. But I would also end this might be a good one-time meet with a financial planner to get a strategy in place.
Yep.
I think maybe Tiff and I can help you with like the beginnings of thinking about that. But I would love, you can probably get a financial planner to talk to you, as an initial call just to like strategize this particular instance of your money, just to get that extra, professional opinion. And they can look at your whole picture very carefully and give you real specific advice in that case.
Exactly. For like $150-$250. So yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is from Chanel. I hope you don't mind us using your name because you didn't say it was anonymous. So Chanel says, hi, I hope you're both doing well. My name is Chanel, and I had a quick question. With tales of the recession coming, what should we be doing to prepare? If this was already answered in a podcast episode, would you be able to tell me which one? Thanks for your help. Chanel, we might have, but sis, with what's going on now, we finna answer it again. Okay. So how should people prepare, and how are you preparing, Mandi, for the upcoming recession? I feel like it's like a party. Like, Al, how you doing? What you gonna wear for the recession, girl? Who all over there?
It's recession girl summer. Is that a thing? Yeah. So the thing is, my preparation for the recession started the minute I was laid off in 2010 of the year of our Lord, 2010. When I was laid off, I decided right then I was always going to stay ready for the next recession. You will not catch me off guard. So my preparation, I'm not really doing anything differently today than in the past. But the thing is, so you have to kind of look at your financial picture. Do you have, how's your emergency funds looking? Do you have debt? If so, is there any way that you can start to work toward paying that off, or restructure things so that you're not, using as much of your free cash flow for that debt for the time being, just to buy yourself some time and give yourself extra financial wiggle room. I think it's also really important to think of like how you're professionally preparing yourself for recession. So that's one of the reasons why this week I held a free workshop called Recession Proof Your Career, because I believe very strongly that so much of our career is the root of our financial, of the ability for ourselves to grow our finances. So professionally, what you can do to sort of hedge against recessions and tough economic times are to always be investing in your own skills and the value you bring to companies. The people who will be in most danger of being cut, and if companies do decide to downsize as they have been doing, are the ones whose skills can be easily replaced or automated. So what are you bringing to the table that is going to make you super valuable? And maybe you are released from your job, but will other people be looking for someone with your skills and talents? Sometimes people are laid off through no fault of their own, or not because the company doesn't need their skills, but companies just got to make the books, the math has to math for Wall Street to be happy with them, right? So they make these drastic cuts. Doesn't mean that your skills are not needed, but will other companies want them? So I'm always thinking about like, what are the skills that I have today? And then will multiple companies be interested in me? I think that's a great way to give yourself some professional security. Don't wait until times are difficult either to actually reach out to your network and to keep your network warm, because it's a lot harder to reach out to folks for help or for referrals or for like help, getting a job or whatnot when things are really dicey and everyone's sort of stressed out. I think it's better to cultivate those relationships, always. And I think our previous question too was a really good example of like, I don't know, how to look at where you have your money now and does it make the most sense for you? Are you, and I think it's a good time to like be restructuring your investments. If you're overly risky, like maybe your risk tolerance for investing in the stock market is not as strong as you thought it was, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't sleep, and you have so much of your investments tied up in stocks. And maybe it's time to rethink that. Maybe you're getting older, or you just, can't handle the anxiety, and maybe you need to shift some over into less risky investments. Like our last listener, she asked about ibonds. There's other forms of bonds you could purchase as well that are protected. High yield savings, CDs, things like that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch you can kind of do. What do you think, Tiff?
Well, I would say, first and foremost, I need you to figure out what your noodle budget is. I mean, this is when I survived the 2009 recession. That was a mistake that I made, that I did not quickly drop down and get your noodle on, girl. I'll drop down and get your noodle on, girl. So your noodle budget is like, think back, like if you had to eat ramen noodles like college, right? Meaning, if I look at my budget, and let's just say my life cost me $5,000 a month, mortgage, car, no, everything, right? But it also includes like hair done, nails done, everything did. But my life could potentially cost me $4,000 a month if I cut out the things that are not necessities, right? So, so I'm not saying you should live at your noodle budget, but you should know what it is. That way, if really the shit hits the fan, for lack of a better word, then you know instantly what you can cut out. Because too many people were losing their homes and still had cable. Like when I say too many people, I am people. I was still paying like $100-something a month for cable, and I lost my home to foreclosure. And it was like, not that $100-something a month would have saved my house. It wasn't about the house at that point. That was grocery money for me. That was other bills that could have been paid. So one, identify your noodle budget. You don't have to drop down to it yet, but just know if times get tough, you can. So that's one of the things. Something else too is like, sometimes you have to identify even more than your noodle budget. I call it my health and safety budget. So noodle budget is I can still pay the bills, but I just don't have any excess. My health and safety budget is what I had to drop down to when I lost my job during the recession, the 2009 recession. And I lost my house to foreclosure. Now I was really, really struggling. And the health and safety budget is ain't nobody getting paid unless it supports my health and my safety. That meant they were people like my credit cards that were late. And I had to be okay with that, because I am more important than my bills. I had to call the credit card companies and say, hey, I don't have it right now because I'm going to get my asthma medicine instead. I'm going to make sure that I have enough for this place where I have to live, so I'm not homeless. I'm going to have enough so I can eat. And so there's levels. There's your regular budget, which you're likely living at now. Great. Know what your noodle budget is. So if you have to drop down to that, which is just the non bells and whistles budget, great. Then know your health and safety budget, whereas it means that some bills won't get paid because you have to take care of your health and safety. So really understanding your tiers and doing so. But also too, one of the reasons why I haven't done a Get Good Money plug in a long time. Okay. My New York Times bestselling book, Get Good with Money. But honestly, one of the reasons why I wrote it was in response to how I struggled during the 2009-10 recession. I wanted to create this holistic look of your money that I call financial wholeness. And that is these 10 components of your personal finances that will allow you to see you through the good and the bad. And so focusing on your financial wholeness, honestly. So here are the 10 components: budgeting, savings, debt, credit, learning to earn. So that's like financial wholeness 101. That's the core foundation. And then financial wholeness 102 is investing for both retirement and wealth, right? It is your insurance, it is your money team, your net worth, and estate planning. So I would focus on the first 5 components of financial wholeness, like really tightening up on your budget, on your savings plan, on lowering your debt and managing your credit and learning to earn. If you need help with that, you can go head on over to getgoodwithmoney.com and go ahead and scoop that book up. No, but honestly, like that's why I wrote that book. And honestly, it's just an accumulation of the work that I do, which is I'm really here to help you to build this financial foundation so you can see your way through the most difficult parts of your financial journey and your life's journey as it relates to your money. And so that's what I would suggest: understanding your tiers, really working on this financial wholeness part, and also not purchasing any big ticket items unless you are really solid with your debt, your investments. you have your retirement fund, you have your 6 to 12 months worth of an emergency fund. I would not be buying a big ticket item right now because you might need that money to survive through this. So just keep those things in mind.
Yeah, and Chanel doesn't mention much about her assets and how much she hasn't. She doesn't mention anything about her debt, or her cash on hand. But for those who have the means, and for those who have a long time horizon, I would not want y'all to stop investing. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
is my advice with a lowercase a, not an investment advisor. But if you have the means, and I almost said previous caller, our previous question from listener TD, who has wants to do something with her investments next year. That's a very short time horizon. Yeah, snatch that money up and do something else with it. But if you're investing for retirement, things like that, I would say, keep investing. Things are cheap. Look at it that way. You can buy more shares of companies now than maybe you could, months ago. And that was one of the great lessons I learned post recession of 2008, 2009, when I was laid off in 2010 as a result of that, like several years it took for that whole recession to just like chill out.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned then like investing even during tough times, and it has benefited me enormously.
Mm-hmm.
Investing through the pandemic, investing through my early years in my career, which was post '08 crisis. Yeah. If you can keep going. It's just hard to give that specific advice to you, Miss Chanel, because I don't know all your business. But if you have a professional advisor who does, then they can certainly help you there.
Yeah.
You mentioned credit card debt too, Tiffany. I was reading something about how Americans are like credit card debt is starting to rise.
Yeah. I'm not
Which is
surprised.
concerning, right? I mean, I'm not surprised. Things are so much more expensive.
Yeah.
Like, and there's this calculator that I want to share with y'all. I gotta find a link to it. It's like your personal inflation calculator. And it helps,
Mm.
I think, it helps give important perspective to how not everyone is feeling this inflation at the same pace as other
Mm-hmm.
people. It really depends on your lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
your household size, whether you're
Mm-hmm.
renting, whether you're owning a home, if you need a car, like, and your personal
Yeah.
inflation rate can be so much higher than what we all
Yes.
say is like, oh, 8%. No, it can be double, triple that depending on
Yeah.
what you're
Like if
going
you
through.
like I drove down here, I drove to, like upstate New York from Newark. Cause typically I don't drive. I work from home. And so I was
Mm,
not privy to the sting of paying for gas. Cause honestly, like the Whole Foods I go to is in Newark. My sister lives around the corner. My other, everything is so close until like the tank finally got to E and I
mm.
filled it up. When the man told me $95, I looked like, who's he talking to? Not me.
What did you? That's
Because I put
crazy.
I put I put a
What were you
premium because
driving? What are you driving?
Jarrell has a Lincoln MKZ. I don't know, one of these big cars I'm holding for Alyssa that she wants for when she turns like I guess 17 or 18, so she can crash the car because that's what they all do. But so I gave my sister my car. I know. I gave my
Okay.
sister my car and I kept Jarrell's car, which is it's kind of a big car. But he was always like,
Mm.
no, make sure you always put premium gas or whatever. I was like, this thing's about to get some water. And so I filled it up and I was like, what? Because the truth is, I never really looked like I
Damn.
just go to the gas station. Back when I was driving a lot, like I used to live in South Jersey and I would drive all the way to Newark, I knew exactly the cheap gas stations because I'm like, no, 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 no. And I was driving like a little like
Mhm.
Nissan Altima. And so I could put like, rocks and stones and that thing could drive. But I like, because I hardly ever drive, I wasn't really looking at prices. I just pulled up, was like, fill it up. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Or did you just ask for a car note? So to your point, Mandy,
Yeah.
about that inflation hits people differently. Someone like me who doesn't drive very often,
Mhm.
the inflation of gas has not hit me as hard because I'm not, filling up my tank as much. So just being mindful of your lifestyle and asking yourself, you know, um, if you had to cut back, or if you had to make more, start planning out what does that look like now, because that might be coming. And so it's like, okay, if I had to, I could do this, or I could do this because I was just talking to one of my friends, Cabral, today about ways that he was like, I'm really good at this, and this, and I call that the bank. The bank is an area in my life that I could bank on making money. Like if things got
Mm.
really tight, let's just say, everybody hates the budgetista. right? I could do one-on-ones and I could bank on that and say, hey, people do want to sit down with me with their personal finances. And so like, that's like, remember Mandi, when you first started your business, your bank was, you were an editor. And you're like, I can write, I can edit. It may not be my fave, but I know I can bank on that skill set and make money if need
1000%.
be. So ask yourself too, for those listening, like, do you have something you can bank on? For me, even when I was teaching preschool, my bank was I could tutor, I could babysit. The bank might be driving Uber. Like, what does that look like for you? You don't have to do it now, but identifying that is certainly going to help. So if you need to tap into it, it's there and ready for you.
I love that. It's almost like a noodle budget for your career or your
Yes.
professional skills. We got to work on that, but that's really smart. I love that. Well, let's be clear too. We're not technically in an official recession yet,
Yes.
but I think it's the slow burn of this whole painful situation is that there is time to make changes now that could definitely prepare you if it came to that. And if, a year or two from now, you personally are affected by this downturn that we're going through right now. So yeah, absolutely. I love what Tiff said, your noodle budget, beefing up your savings, paying down your debt, just those good fundamental. I mean, I know you don't have your big Get Good with Money picture behind you right now, but I do have the book back there, if you guys can see.
Go
it's
ahead and
go next to our
go
Wendy.
ahead to getgomoney.com and get you a copy. For real. Really now is the time to really lock in on the fundamentals, the financial fundamentals.
Hell yeah. That's like, what is it? $20 now? $20 well spent, y'all. It's probably on sale on Amazon, but
it probably
support
is,
a local bookseller.
Exactly.
Thank you, Ms. Chanel, for your question. Thank you all for your incredible questions.
Yes.
Y'all can hit us up. We're brownambitionpodcast.com. You can also DM us at Brown Ambition Podcast on Instagram or email us brownambitionpodcast@gmail.com.
Until next week. Bye. Hey, BA fam. We're on YouTube. Woohoo! Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
And while you're at it, why don't you go over to that little bell icon and just tap that for us. Show the BA fam how much you love us. And that way you'll also get notifications when new videos drop. Also, share the channel with a friend. We're always like, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. And thank y'all so much again for all the support.